Hi, I'm Lindsay Waltower. I love life and exciting challenges. I help people build their wealth, protect their assets, but more importantly, build a legacy for them and their family. And I can do the very same thing for you. Your Wealth Today with Lindsay Waltower. Welcome to Your Wealth Today. I'm Lindsay Waltower, your host. Today you're going to learn about financial planning, wealth management, as well as how to select a good financial advisor. And today our guest will be Mr. Mark Riaboli from Independence Advisors, LLC, located in Wayne, Pennsylvania. Welcome, Mark, to the show. How are you?
Thank you very much, Lindsay. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to help.
Great, great. Mark has over 25 years of experience as an investment advisor, as well as in the planning field. His experiences include, prior to joining Independence Advisors, senior investment analyst at PNC Wealth Management in Philadelphia. Mark has also been the CEO of Bryn Mawr Asset Management, a subsidiary of Bryn Mawr Trust Company. And Mark has also been named one of the top 100 managers in a U.S. by Bloomberg Wealth Management magazine. He also has a CFP, which is a Certified Financial Planning designation, and Mark is also very active in our community, and he is the current chairman of the Tri-State chapter of the Financial Planning Association. So today's guest brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to help you, our viewer, to better understand wealth management and the elements of financial planning. And we really appreciate you coming on board today, Mark.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm happy to help.
So Mark, tell me, as you know, our program is geared towards helping the audience better understand what wealth is, how to preserve it, and how to be more philanthropic with their finances. So can you explain the difference between wealth management and, say, financial planning?
Yep, great question, Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the early days of the business, investment management was pretty much a client would bring their assets to a large firm and say, the firm would say, I'm happy to manage it. They really didn't understand the client very well. Financial planning was an introduction into understanding the client on a host of different levels: retirement, income tax, estate planning, investment planning, and several different areas. And so that added that extra element of getting to know the client and really providing exceptional service above and beyond just managing the money.
I see. So, in other words, wealth management and financial planning are not exactly the same, but they're very much a part of the overall financial health of the client.
We define wealth management as a combination of that investment management and the traditional financial planning principles.
Okay.
So ongoing management of the money,
right,
as well as ongoing management of the financial planning issues like retirement, tax, estate, charitable giving.
I see.
All of those areas are combined to really round out the offering.
Great. So what would you recommend as having the most important elements of a financial plan?
For everyone, it's different. Some people that come to us have an investment focus. Some folks have a tax focus. It really depends on the person. Sometimes it's a cash flow issue. Will I have enough money later in life? So it really depends on the individual, which is more important than ever to manage the money in a holistic manner.
What are some of the options would that financial plan look like?
Right.
As a family would like to, say, set up an account for their child to go to college?
Right. Well, there are many different ways you can do that. You can do that with a 529 plan, which is very popular today. Uniform transfer to minors accounts have been very popular in the past, and folks will use that. Folks will use trusts to do that. And some folks find that an insurance type product
Absolutely.
may be an appropriate vehicle. So it really depends on the goals and the situation.
Absolutely. That's great. And also, I think in today's economy where resources are very limited and or very tight, the spending plan becomes a vital piece to sound financial planning. Mark, what do you think? What's your opinion on a spending plan, and how does that relate to financial planning?
It can be critical.
Yeah.
Often you might hear the phrase, it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And in spending, I've seen very wealthy people earn very little, and they saved a great amount, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So when we look at a long-term retirement plan for a client,
Okay.
there are really two levers that we can manipulate and manage. One lever is the expenses,
Right.
and one lever is the portfolio risk and return. We can dial those levers back and forth depending on what the client is trying to achieve long-term. So expense management is critical, not just in everyday management, but for the long-term projections and the long-term health, financial health of the client.
Absolutely, absolutely. And do you recommend in putting together that financial spending plan, it's not where you're telling people they can't live a well-balanced life. You're just saying that there's certain limitations to your spending, and if we don't address those limitations, you won't have a healthy financial plan. Is that pretty much it?
That's exactly right. You can pay now, or you can pay later.
Yes, it's better to pay now.
Better to pay now.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about wealth management as a strategy for helping our clients, your clients and my clients, when building accumulating wealth, the major obstacle most of the time is lack of knowledge, lack of information. What's your perspective on that?
Absolutely lack of information. The world is an incredibly complex place, and we hire specialists for things we don't even know exist half the time, right? And so as a client's wealth builds, their complications in their estate plan, their tax plan, all of those things increase dramatically.
Right. It was a recent survey done where our particular audience, over 70% of the people polled had little or no knowledge around financial planning or how to even select a viable wealth manager, a financial planner. So that doesn't surprise me. Are you, what are some of the steps you're taking with your firm to kind of do that in the community?
Right. There are many different ways that you can begin to find a financial planner. There are websites. If you go to cfpnet.org and fpanet.org, you can find financial planners on those websites.
Sure. Great. And as a financial planner yourself, what's your process? How do you actually work with a client in the beginning?
Yeah, the first thing we do is meet with a client, or potential client, with no cost, no obligation. And I would encourage everyone that's looking at an advisor, they should look at advisors that offer that.
Absolutely.
And so that initial meeting, we gather all of their financial information. We gather a lot of information about their family, their goals, their values, all of those things.
Great.
We take that information back to the office and we do some projections. We then present that client with some recommendations. At the beginning, those recommendations are primarily investment oriented and retirement oriented. So then the client decides, do they want to hire us or not? If they decide to hire us, then we elaborate on that process and cover those other areas of income tax planning, estate tax planning, charitable funding, education funding, disability, all of those other areas that are involved in a person's life.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's great. And after that initial consultation,
Right.
and you're developing the plan, what's the next priority? Are they coming back to meet with you to develop a fully integrated plan, or you're giving them the option of not doing that?
Well, that's an interesting question, and what actually happens,
Mhm.
research indicates, clients come to us generally for investment advice, secondarily tax advice, and then from there, estate planning and some of those other areas. So for most people, the hot spot is really the investment work and the tax and retirement issues.
Great. What part of your practice helps family with charitable planning?
Well, one of the leading
And how does that relate to wealth management?
great question. Most people that are not moving towards charitable planning, one of the reasons is they don't know if they have enough money to do charitable planning.
Right.
So part of that is illustrating their retirement picture to say you're doing fine and you have plenty of money.
Absolutely.
Also understanding their estate tax situation helps understanding should we be doing some more charitable giving
Yes.
to alleviate potential estate tax.
Sure.
So it's all combined. It's all one big ball of wax that we've got to take into consideration.
Absolutely. And it gets back to that early point where you said the spending plan. Once we've identified the spending priorities and actually have people know exactly where they are financially, then they are in a better position to be more charitable
Much better.
without hurting themselves.
Right.
And to illustrate that, some of our viewers may, at the end of the year, want to do a lot of things around holidays, those sorts of things.
Right.
But if you have a spending plan in place, you're in a better position inherently to plan ahead versus spending money that's not necessarily there. And I think the spending plan is a great way to allocate funds. You can still take care of your family and still be charitable at the same
Absolutely.
time. I think that's a great way to go.
Once we answer the question, which most people have, is will I have enough? Do I have enough? From that, all sorts of goals and objectives will shake out, and for many people, charitable
Absolutely.
giving is along those lines.
Yes, yes. And our audience is very charitable based on the research we've done. And people want to give, but if you don't have the resources to actually do that, it's a better way to be more charitable, just simply by having someone walk you through the process. So what are your thoughts around the characteristics, the values, integrity of a financial advisor and how to select one?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to talk about that.
Yeah.
I think nowadays more than ever there are a lot of criminals out
Yeah.
there, right? We all know about Bernie Madoff, and it's very scary to trust an advisor. They're in many ways like an accountant and an attorney or your medical professional.
Absolutely.
So the first thing that I suggest is talk to your friends and family, because if they've had good experiences, you're likely to have a good experience.
Yes.
But don't stop there. Also look at some of the websites out there. The Financial Planning Association, their website gives you the ability to go on there and search for an advisor.
Right.
And there are advisors with both CFPs and other credentials on the Financial Planning Financial Planning Association website.
Yeah.
And then in addition, the CFP, the board, CFP board
Okay.
has a website, and that's cfpnet.org.
Right.
And you can search for CFP on that website.
Okay.
Whoever you narrow your list down to, I would suggest you do some background checks on them.
Absolutely.
And SEC registered advisors, basically fee-only advisors, they're regulated by the SEC. You can go to the SEC website and check on their firms and their background.
Okay.
And then the broker-dealer community, basically commission sales folks, They're regulated by an organization known as FINRA, F-I-N-R-A. You can go to their website and do due diligence on them as well.
Great, great.
But the most important thing you can do is do your homework, because you're trusting this person with your money and all of your personal information.
Yes.
And the chemistry that you have with this person is very important.
Very important.
It's a trusted advisor, and so if you don't, go with your gut in this case. If you don't feel a comfort, they don't make you feel intelligent, then by all means, keep looking.
Keep looking, absolutely. Trust is the key.
Absolutely.
Trust is the key with anything that we do as it relates to protecting your wealth, your family, and building your legacy. So I think the tips that Mark has provided today are really good insights into how to select an advisor, how to gauge that advisor, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how to keep that advisor accountable to the plans that we, as a team, create. Hi, I'm Lindsay Waltower. I love life and exciting challenges. I'm a wealth manager. I help people build their wealth, protect their assets, but more importantly, build a legacy for them and their family. And I can do the very same thing for you. I'm going to help you on the journey to financial freedom. Your Wealth Today with Lindsay Waltower. Estate planning is one of the most important steps in any financial plan. It makes sure that your family, as well as your healthcare wishes, are honored. It's important that loved ones are protected, so a proper, established estate plan is critical. Though often overlooked and put off in favor of more expedient matters in your family, a comprehensive estate plan involves a number of legal questions as well as affairs that we normally don't think about. So what is your current financial state of affairs? Think about that. What are your real and personal property, and how do you own them? How are they structured? More importantly, who gets it? Does your personal guardian need to be appointed? Does a personal guardian need to be appointed to your children? How much taxes will you need in order to pay your estate if you die unexpectedly or need to transfer property ownership? What funeral arrangements are appropriate to your estate plan? These are critical questions when you are thinking about estate planning. So when thinking about your estate, here are some things that you need to consider as it relates to owning property. These are the items that you will be transferring at your time of death and or a health concern. Real estate, bank accounts, stocks and other securities, life insurance policies, personal property such as automobiles, jewelry, and even artwork. So regardless of your age, the size or complexity of your estate, an estate plan will help you to accomplish these, to protect these many valuable assets. So first of all, identify family members and loved ones who you wish to leave your property to. That's critical. Also ensure that your property will be transferred to only those you've identified in your will. This is critical. As well as minimizing your taxes. You want to minimize your taxes. Okay? So to avoid the costs associated with the process of probate, a estate plan is also critical. So for more information, visit Waltower Philanthropic Advisors, that's Waltower Philanthropic Advisors, and request a free consultation. We'll be happy to assist you and answer any questions that you may have. This is your tip of the day. Welcome back. Today we're again with Mark Riaboli from Independent Advisors here in Wayne, Pennsylvania. And Mark, we left off talking about how to select a quality financial advisor. And to continue that point, help us to understand what qualities are inherent in a great financial planner.
Great question.
Yeah.
When you go through that interview process, you want to ask questions like, what areas do you specialize in? How do you work with clients? Who will I be working with? Oftentimes you're dealing with a salesperson that will hand you off to a junior person. So those are all critical questions, but I think one of the most important questions is, you're talking about how wonderful it will be to work with you. What happens when we decide to go our separate ways? How does that work?
In other words, what's your exit strategy from this relationship?
Exactly.
This person has a lot of your personal data, your life history.
Right.
I mean, you've developed this long relationship, obviously, and now it's time to exit. How do you do that?
That's right. So what happens to all my personal information? Now, there are some requirements by the government that you have to retain that information for a period of time.
Sure.
But questions like, what types of investments will you use? And how quickly can I get out of those investments? Will it take years, or can I just sell them? Can they be transferred to another advisor, or are they proprietary investments? Don't invest in anything you don't understand. And if an advisor says something like, well, this is very sophisticated and you just won't be able to understand it, that's a really good sign you need another advisor.
The Warren Buffett rule is never invest in something that you don't understand.
Great advice.
We've covered, wealth management, elements of financial planning. We've also talked about understanding your investments. In today's world, how does online technology and all those developments affect financial planning?
I've been in the business almost 25 years, and I've seen technology revolutionize this business. And from an advisor standpoint, the software has enabled us to produce the plans and deliver investment advice in an incredibly efficient way. The real benefit of that has been for those do-it-yourselfers or those folks that can't afford a full-time advisor. We've been able to get really good financial planning concepts down, to those folks.
Sure.
We talked a little bit about some of the downsides of that technology.
Yeah.
I like to think of financial planning as a balance between art and science.
Absolutely.
And with a lot of this automation in these websites, it's stripped away some of that art. And the art is where the advisor can really add tremendous value. Let me give you a quick example. One of the things that folks ask us about all the time, I have a mortgage, I'm getting ready to retire. Should I take money out of the portfolio and pay down the mortgage? Right. And the financial answer is usually no, because the portfolio will grow at a greater rate than the debt.
Yes.
But for many clients, that financial answer, which is a great answer, doesn't meet with their emotional need to not have debt. And so they're faced with this struggle. And part of our planning process is to look at those alternatives and marry the financial answer with the emotional answer.
Right.
And that's the right answer, because a financial answer that keeps you up all night and worrying about that debt is no answer at all.
It's no answer at all. Absolutely. And I think the internet with technology, you're talking about preserving your wealth, accumulating your wealth, and having a long-term perspective. And I think some of the tools online, if the individual is not discerning, will take an approach that's more of a trader mentality.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of the technology is driven on transactions.
Absolutely.
Versus that long-term building wealth strategy. Do you agree with that?
Wholeheartedly. Our entire investment philosophy is designed around long-term investing.
Sure.
And when you look at the media, the exception of this show, of course.
Absolutely.
When you look at the media, The magazines that are out there, they focus on very short periods of time. They focus on trying to time the market, which we know does not work over the long term.
Right.
And there's a lot of disinformation, as you mentioned earlier in the program. What clients can focus on is more of that long-term approach. But our heads are not wired for
No,
that.
we're not.
We're wired for the short kick and the short kill. And so that's where the advisor can add tremendous discipline and education, and they can hold your hand. In March of 2009, when the Dow Jones Industrial Average is at the lowest point it's been in a long time,
Yeah.
they can hold your hand and kind of walk you off of that proverbial ledge.
Absolutely, absolutely. When you're dealing with a screen, it's kind of difficult when you hear that J.P. Morgan has lost $2 billion and you're invested in J.P. Morgan.
That's right.
If you're only dealing with an account with some sort of computerized database, you know, you're isolated, and that emotional drain can make you make even wrong decisions. You know, compound those already errors by making impulsive trades and selling off. So if you have a sound, it just makes even more sense to have a financial advisor. Although the technology is available, although the information is there, a financial advisor, philanthropic advisor, can help you navigate those waters when things seem overwhelming and the market is basically not going the way you want it to go.
2 quick points on that.
Absolutely.
Through additional research in the medical community, we can kind of look inside people's heads nowadays.
Okay.
And there's been tremendous study about how people look at the market and the market going down.
Sure.
And when the market declines, it triggers the same area of our brains as if we're in harm's way, physical harm's way.
That's right.
And that creates a lot of reactive thinking instead of proactive and reflective thinking.
Right. And our show is about helping you, the viewer, accumulate wealth, preserve your wealth, but more importantly, position you inherently so that moving forward you leave a strong legacy for your family. I want to remind the viewers that Mark has agreed to provide a free downloadable document. It's going to be on the website, walltowerphilanthropy.com. And it's going to be entitled How to Select a Good Advisor. It's a free download. You can go there and get that free document courtesy of Mr. Riaboli here. And Mark, I want to thank you for being a guest today. The information you provided our audience has been very valuable, and we really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. It was great fun, and I'd be happy to do it again sometime.
Absolutely. And I want to thank you for joining us today. Join us next week for another exciting show.